A veteran journalist who was investigating possible sex crimes from former President Bill Clinton is said to have been found dead in Washington. Prince George's County Police Department released a statement to One American News regarding Jenny Moore's death investigation, saying officers found a woman unresponsive at a Washington, D.C. hotel after a welfare check. The department claims the woman was pronounced dead at the scene. One America's Neil W. McCabe breaks down the case.
FBI whistleblower Robin Gritz told One American News her friend Jen Moore told her that if the wrong people found out about the documents she had just obtained, they would kill her. Gritz did not know what those documents were, but she does know that the FBI called her August 13th to tell her that her friend was dead. This is the Capitol Heights, Maryland hotel where Moore was found unresponsive by housekeeping. Gritz said that she never knew Moore's last name, but that the police called her because she had listed the veteran FBI agent as the next of kin.
On Monday, I was sitting, it was towards the end of the day, and I was sitting at my desk at work, and I looked down, and a lot of messages were coming in on my cell phone. And so I looked at it, on Twitter, someone had messaged me, do you know Task Force is dead?
Task Force was the nickname for Moore, and Gritz said that she used it instead of her name to protect her. Gritz said that she thought it was all a sick joke, but after calling around, she confirmed that Task Force had passed, and then the phone rang.
It was a detective from Prince George's County Police Department, really, really nice guy. And he said, I got your name and number to get her next of kin. And he just said, this poor woman. He goes, suicide is pretty much ruled out. Nothing to indicate suicide. Nothing to indicate a forced entry. Nothing to indicate any kind of physical confrontation.
The initial call was that Moore had suffered a seizure, she said. Robin Gritz was not just any FBI veteran. For 16 years, she was a top agent assigned to high-profile cases such as the Boston Marathon bombing and posted as the FBI's liaison officer to the Defense Intelligence Agency. 6 years ago, she filed a gender discrimination complaint, but instead of addressing her concerns, the FBI put her on unpaid leave and has slow-walked her case. Using her skills, she used Moore's phone number to find 3 of the reporter's relatives and passed on their details to the detective. It was this personal history that formed the bond between the two women, as Moore herself was a former California police officer who was targeted by her leadership. TruePundit.com reported that Moore had come to them about the child molestation ring she was investigating with the help of a 26-year-old who said he was passed around the ring in the 1990s.
I said, you need to kind of focus on what you have here that is the most needed, and I'll put you in touch with someone.
Gritz said she never knew what Moore was working on, but she did know it was getting serious.
In the middle of doing all this research, she realized she was possibly getting into some pretty dark places. So she had documentation for everything. So she texted me and said, I got to find out who I can give this paperwork to. And if it gets into the wrong hands, someone will kill me. And that was just, I can say that was only about 2 weeks before her death, was when she said if this gets in the wrong hands.
At one point, she offered to take in Moore at her place in the Midwest, but Moore never followed up on it, she said. Now she is mourning a friend and fellow traveler.
I would describe, and I actually just picked it up, got a little thing for her. Kind heart, fierce mind, brave spirit. That's exactly how I would describe Jenny.
Jen Moore was not just an investigative reporter. She was a former California police officer who Gritz said dedicated her life to exposing wrongdoing, including her very last investigation, which may have cost her life.
Just so we're on the same page and there's no... What I plan on doing is contact the FBI, right? Yeah. If I can't find anybody worth his shit in the FBI, I'm going to try somebody in Homeland Security to come and talk to you. In the interim, I'm going to work on this video. The parts that I like, I'm going to cut out. put in one area, right? And then if they don't do anything with the story, with you, I'm going to do a story on it. Just so you know. That's what my plans are.
Sounds good.
And I want you to be prepared, because I think part of putting this behind you is you're going to have to stand up. And you've already done that, made a major step today. And one of the things you have to consider is probably the best advice you may ever get when it comes to this stuff is don't pay attention to what anybody else says about you.
Yeah.
Because they don't matter. Mm-hmm. They're going to say bad things about you your whole life, no matter what you do, whether you're involved in something like this or not. So don't even read it. Like, people send me clips all the time, people slamming me and my group. I don't read it. What the hell do I have to read it for? I live it. Mm-hmm. I know who I am. And so I just want you to know that we're not going to do anything right away, because I want to give these guys an opportunity to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And if they talk to you, that's a story too, that they're talking to you and this is what happened to you. If they're not talking to you, then that's a story as well. They're not talking to you, but this is what happened to you. But if I just want you to know that when we do a story, it'll have your name and everything. And I'm not interested in doing something any other way when it comes to this, because I think that it's the best way for you to start putting blocks back on top of this. And if I can help you in any way, I will, man. I don't know how I can help you, or, and if I can do anything for you, I'm happy to try to help. You're a young guy, you got your whole life ahead of you. I mean, it's time to start thinking about rebuilding, and getting some of these things out of here that don't haunt you, you know what I mean? They may always haunt you, but haunt you less so that you can have some confidence in life and decide on what you want to do. You're still young. 26 is young. That's all I want to tell you. That's fine with you, right? Yeah. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay.
After my uncle got bored or whatever, he held me up and tried to get Bill Clinton's attention. Bill Clinton turned around and looked like he gave this look like, what am I going to do? I have to do it. Yeah, well, it's not a room. This is the top deck of the boat.
The top deck of the boat, okay. So you're outside at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're way far away from everybody else. There's no one else around. Out of the water. I mean, you're way far away from everybody else.
Well, yeah. This boat was not scheduled to leave the harbor this night, but it left anyway.
How many other kids your age were on it, do you think?
I only saw 2 other kids my age, and they were in different circumstances.
Meaning they weren't in as much danger, or they were in more danger, or equal danger?
On top of the boat, the only other child was a young girl I remember there being a young girl on one of the 4 podiums. There are 4 podiums like this, and then the one in the middle, not podium, pedestal. And there might have been, I think there was a teenage girl on one of them too, but the youngest girl was, I think, 6 years old. But I was the only one. I didn't witness any other children being raped that night.
So you were in a more dire situation, obviously, than they were.
Yeah.
Now, what happens? Why did they pick you? They parade you around or something, and they choose the kids? Is that how it happens?
They chose me years before. They chose me for various reasons. I'm sort of the runt of my family,
And when I was born, I was born head first with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, with no heartbeat and no breath. But they picked me because they thought that I was going to be just a failure.
But you survived.
Yeah.
You probably weren't supposed to survive.
Yeah, I don't think I was supposed to survive.
A lot of people who go through this, they don't survive one way or the other. You know, they get mixed up with things and drugs, substance abuse. But you're still here. Yeah. So you want to tell your story?
Mm-hmm.
You feel it's time to tell your story?
It's time, but I don't know if I'm ready.
Well, I think it's like a really bad analogy, I'll say, is people who say, "Oh, I'm ready to have a kid." You're never ready to have a kid.
Yeah.
So I think in a situation like you're in, the fact that you came down here and you're talking right now is evidence that part of you thinks you're ready,
yeah,
and maybe another part doesn't think you're ready. So what we talked about with the FBI and with Homeland Security, we can give you a cushion where you can, for the next month or so, prepare yourself. If it does come out, if these people do want to talk to you, it gives you more time to process it instead of everything being thrown on you at one time, like in a big rush.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a situation that should be rushed, because we're dealing with your life. And there's more important things than news stories and headlines and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, everybody knows these people are jerks. I'm being nice. They're jerks. And they're deviants. So it's not going to really be this shock and awe thing. This is more of, hey, this kid stood up, standing up, say what happened to him was wrong.
It is shock and awe. You need to know what else happened.
Well, I'm ready. Tell me what happened.
Okay. And then when I was taken into the ballroom, these people were marched diagonally through the room from one entrance at the other to get to the top of the boat, and they were all bleeding from their feet, and they had cuts from their chest to their abdomen. And when I was finally brought out to the top of the boat, they were all already on the ground, being forced to continue having sex in their new state.
Well, they're bleeding and things like that. Yeah. So what other people are watching? Is that the thing?
There are the people, part of the display, the victims. And there are 4 pedestals with women of different stages of sexual development on them, and then the middle pedestal has Bill Clinton. And I don't remember looking up, but I have found a picture of a boat that looks exactly like this one. And in this picture, this boat has a section above the top deck, which is also closed off like this one was, a section above it with windows like this, a semicircle kind of, overlooking the top deck. So there could have even been very many people that I didn't see inside the boat or on top of the boat that were up there who would come down to the top of the boat to join in the display and then go back up to watch it. But there were people, and this was something that was restricted. I know this because was one of the people doing this and one of the people doing this, but their associate, who I am now able to identify as my friend's father, was inquiring, like, how does he join in, or where does he get the children that these people are bringing up here? So he is part of their alliance, but he doesn't know everything that's going on.
So let me ask you one quick question, right? You're 8 years old. Somebody's going to say, how do you remember all this? You're 8 years old.
So it was incredibly traumatizing,
Right.
and the mind doesn't forget traumatic memories.
So over the years, how old are you now?
26.
Okay, so over that span, you replay this over in your head. Was that a lot of times, or little segments, or
Because of the way that they've treated me over the course of time, my memories have stayed repressed, especially after 12 years old. Before I turned 12 years old, there would be periods when I would remember things that happened to me, even if it was just a little blip or for a split second. But I wasn't able to adequately communicate what I was experiencing.
right? Well, I mean, because of your age,
Yeah.
and also the trauma. So you say the way they've treated you since, what happened? What has happened? And what are some of the instances where you've been?
Well, they never stopped. That was the worst experience of my life, but they never stopped kidnapping me, even as an adult.
Okay, so you're an adult, right? Are you talking about
Yeah.
after 18?
Yeah, I mean, I said after I turned 12, I didn't have any inkling of what was going on anymore. Things were still going on. Things went on consistently over the course of my whole life. Other than that, when I was in high school, it was a little bit different and less common.
Okay, so what's on the list here? What do you got?
So, things they did to make me forget. They treated me as a prop in many circumstances, including for child pornography. But an example of something where I was used as a prop that was not specifically for pornographic reasons is I was taken to the apartment of these professional people, maybe they're attorneys or accountants, something like that. And this is with and his associate, whose last name I don't know, but I know the approximate location of one of his properties that I'm hoping to find in the near future. And this is incredibly bizarre because it doesn't include any of the normal elements of. It does include the normal elements of blackmail and targeted child abuse, but it's much more like being used as a prop outside of the context of pornography. They were in bed and came into the and put me in their bed and told them to have sex with me in their bed. And then when they started to comply, they were told, oh no, don't have sex together, have sex with the child in your bed. And
How old were you then at this point?
I think this may have been before the Newport Boat Show. I think I might have been 7 years old. I might have also been 9 years old. It could have been after, but it was around that time. And as an example of other types of abuse that the trauma becomes spread among. So I was put in their bed, and then before I was taken back out, showed the couple a device in their closet that looks like an intercom that he said was recording them, and I don't think he said that it goes to a central location wirelessly, but asked me, he said, "You're a smart kid, you know what we're gonna have instead of this in the future." And I didn't say anything because I didn't even know what was going on. He said, "Yeah, that's right, computers." And then before leaving entirely, went in the bathroom, picked up a tile from the bathroom floor, and underneath it there was a vial of blood. Puts the tile back, holds the vial of blood up to show the couple, and says, "You're going to be involved in a criminal case pretty soon."
Okay, so let's get back to the way you were treated after the Clinton episode. Was it Clinton that was the only really you said Bill Clinton sexually assaulted you?
Yeah.
Okay. This is one time on this boat trip?
This is the only time that I saw Bill Clinton.
Okay. And he sodomized you?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess a question I would have wanted to know is, have you tried to reach out to him, his lawyers, or I mean, I guess in your current state, it doesn't seem like something you would be like in your face type guy because you're still dealing with these things.
Yeah.
So, have you reached out to them? Have you thought about it? Have you? No. Okay. It's just a question I think is pertinent, although I think I knew the answer to it beforehand, but I just wanted to hear from you. So, you're on the boat. This happens. Afterwards, you're mistreated, and you said they kidnapped you again.
So, I have been kidnapped dozens and dozens of times. When I was a child, on the weekends, I was left with my great-grandmother, who was an elderly woman who was not adequately able to defend me. And I was also left with my half-brother's family, which is, people would call them like a foster family, even though they're not really. In this household, several of the older kids, the kids who were the children whose father was blackmailed into not leaving his room and then eventually to leaving the house entirely, those children were told that they were adopted, even though they weren't adopted legally from him by my half-brother's mother and her boyfriend. And on several occasions, people claiming to be Child Protective Services or DCYF employees came to the house and antagonized the kids.
This is in Rhode Island?
Yeah. There was one of the older kids who was especially vocal about this and who has tried to reach out to me recently, who was singled out by these employees, and they would have him stand in front of the rest of the kids and ask him if he likes what they're going through and things like that, and he would flip out and get violent and get punished for it on the spot.
Okay, so let's go back to the boat, the yacht. This takes off from Rhode Island? That's where it takes off from, okay. Takes off from Rhode Island. And you have any sense of how long this trip was?
Only about 2 hours.
So they go out and come back. That's the only time?
That's not the only time I was brought on a boat, but it's the only time. I'm led to believe that is the only time anything like that has happened.
So you've been brought on a boat other times, but nothing happened to you?
Nothing happened to me, but there was nothing like what I described on the top of the boat.
That's where the video ends for now.